So nobody ever calls me having had a nice bike ride. Nobody ever calls me when they've had a good day on the bike. And the only time I ever hear from you lot is when the bad thing has happened and it's been a very bad day on the bike. So whether it's been a collision with usually another road user, another vehicle, or a road defect taking off your bike, or sometimes something more unusual, like racing accidents, dog bite incidents. Nobody ever comes to me with a good day on the bike. So I'm Roz Galloway. I'm one of the cycling specific personal injury solicitors at Cycle Law Scotland. We've organised this tonight and thank you very much all for coming along. I'm a personal injury solicitor first, and that's true literally and figuratively. I've been a personal injury solicitor now for about 20 years. And at the time, I'd never thought about taking up cycling. I hadn't ridden a bike since I was a child. I'd taken an adult cycling proficiency class run by Cycling UK in Glasgow City. And I'm based up in Aberdeenshire, so riding in Glasgow City was terrifying. But I did that, and then I joined the Pedal for Scotland, the sportive, and that was mind-blowing to ride 50 miles, mind-blowing. And then one thing leads to another, and the next thing you know, your life has been taken over by cycling. So personal injury solicitor first, then I started cycling, and then about 7 years ago, I joined Cycle Law Scotland. There we go. What's that? So yeah, that's one of the sportives we did. So cycling up Tala. I don't know why I'm doing it one-handed or what I'm trying to signal there. So like I say, I've been cycling now for probably about 10 years. Have a go heroes, sportives, triathlons. Started joining a cycling club. I started racing. And a couple of years ago, I qualified and rode in the UCI World Championships for Grand Fondos. I got humiliated by the Belgians. That's them up the front there. But I was there. So always good. I think as a personal injury solicitor, when I'm representing cyclists, that I can only do that well if I understand cycling myself. And I do because I ride bikes, but there's part of understanding of what it's like to be a cyclist and on the road, but also understanding how much cycling means to people. Because it's not the same as driving or walking. You don't identify as a pedestrian. But a lot of people will identify as a cyclist, and it means an awful lot to them when perhaps their injuries has taken that away from them, or they've lost their fitness or lost their bikes through an accident. So a lot of my job is where, or my entire job is where there's been a very bad day on the bike, an accident's happened and somebody's come to me to seek compensation from a third party for negligence and for something that's gone wrong. So what I do is get involved in assessing injury, getting compensation to allow for rehabilitation. The joke is bicycle's third here, but we all know the bike comes first. But obviously, if your bicycle's been damaged by an incident, then you might want compensation for the repairs and replacement. Your helmet, your kit, help and assistance that you've needed from your family, you'll need compensation for expenses, loss of income if you've been off your work as a result of your accident. Even if it's more long-term, there might be things like loss of pension rights if you've lost your career as a result of an accident, if you need a new home or adaptations, if your home is no longer fit for you to live in as a result of your injuries. And that's a huge part of my job, is trying to get all the best evidence to understand how an accident's impacted somebody so that I can get them the best amount of compensation. We also get involved in an awful lot in rehabilitation. So as well as getting money, I suppose at the end of the day, one of the wonderful things that we can do is help maximize somebody's recovery as much as we can by providing for the best rehabilitation to get them access to the treatment that they need, physiotherapy, counselling, even things like prosthetics where there has been a loss of limbs, case managements to tie all the treatments together to complement what is available on the NHS. So as I say, that's a huge part of my job, is getting compensation and proving responsibility for an accident and making sure that we get the right amount of compensation for our clients is my bread and butter. So as I say, nobody comes to me with a good day on the bike. So doing the job I do and seeing what I see, people often ask if it puts me off cycling. And the answer is obviously no, because I'm still riding a bicycle, but it does certainly change how I choose to ride as a result. So I'm going to show some videos of some accidents that we have dealt with. And this is a massive trigger warning because many people here might have been involved in close shaves, actual accidents. Perhaps they're dealing with cases just now. If you want, there's Kit Kats outside. I don't mind. You can go for early Kit Kats. So I've got some videos of some actual accidents. There's nothing too gory. There's a bit of gore later, but I'll give you some notice. So as I say, please feel free because I can understand that this might be difficult for some people. And also please know that what I'm going to say is not a criticism or a judgment. I'm not here to preach, and we've been briefed well by PC Sinclair on the law and how it applies, but what I see on a day-to-day about the common accidents has changed how I choose to ride. And I just wanted to share that with you. And it's, as I say, it's not preaching. You still make your own decisions, but it definitely has changed what I do. So with some common accidents I see day in, day out, here is some 5 things I'd never do on a bicycle as a personal injury solicitor. So, number 1, believe that the highway code protects me. He just spent 40 minutes talking to you about it, and I'm like, so yeah. So there's been obviously recent changes to the highway code, and I know that hopefully I couldn't see when we're asking, do people know about this? And hopefully most of you would say yes. But this is a massive echo chamber of people that are interested in cycle safety and road safety. So I don't think that this is a representative at all. And for example, if I ask my 75-year-old mom, she has got no idea, and she's still doing about in her car. I reckon very few of the general population, I probably wouldn't even say 10%, know about these changes. I don't think that they've been publicised nearly enough. I think they're great changes, but it's almost more dangerous to have these changes and people don't know about them. As I say, an opinion, not a criticism, but I think it is concerning. The other thing to say is that the highway codes, and it actually says this in it, the highway code does not give you right of way in any circumstances. And that's the thing that we often think, I have right of way, I have right of way, I had right of way. Right of way doesn't help you if you're under a bus. So the highway code literally says it does not give you right of way in any circumstances, but it does tell you when you should give way to other users. And it says always give way if it can help to avoid an incident. So we've seen, where did you get the laser thing? Magic. I pointed out this, it appears there. So we've seen, it was an infographic like this that we saw from PC Sinclair. These ones are the dangerous ones that we've seen. I've got a video of a very similar incident. So there we go. So we can see the cycle lane. It's one of these protected cycle lanes, just in the far side of the road there. And that's an entrance to, I can't remember, it's an Aldi or a Lidl supermarket there. So let's watch. What's that? So obviously cyclists in that cycle lane should be given right of way because drivers should not be turning left when there's cyclists coming. I always feel like I should have like the casualty theme tune. That's the first cyclist. Another cyclist comes in there. Now, we know, I think even before the changes to the highway code, that driver would still have been responsible, criminally responsible, yeah, and civil responsible negligence. Strangely, that's still, the driver's still insisting that she is not to blame. They are not to blame for the incident, despite the highway code being pointed out to them. So it's not only somebody that it wasn't aware of the highway code, you still point out the highway code, not to blame. The cyclist shouldn't come past. So again, what can the cyclist do? The cyclist was not to blame here. And I'm not assigning blame to that cyclist, but it is something to be aware of, that these are danger points that we see. And if you can avoid putting yourself in that situation, because you're not going to win that fight. So as I say, I can use that highway code to get you compensation. the driver was certainly to blame here, but doesn't help it actually happening to start off with. So 5 things I'd never do as a personal injury solicitor. Filtering. Now, this is a difficult one because I'm a bit of a countryside cyclist, and I know I'm probably speaking to city cyclists here. And I know one of the amazing things about being able to ride a bicycle is that you can jump a lot of queues, you can filter, you can make progress faster in a city because of filtering, and it's legal. The Highway Code also says the driver should be looking out for cyclists and motorcyclists who may be filtering. But in reality, we know, or I know from the cases that come to me, that it is a very dangerous position to be in for lots of reasons. Partly because if you're filtering, there might be cars coming out from a junction to your left, coming through traffic. There might be cars turning into junctions. There might, if you're filtering perhaps on the right, a car might decide they're fed up of sitting in that traffic jam and hang a U-turn, not bothering to look. All sorts of things. I know it's a situation that clients come to me regularly having suffered an incident. The other horrible one with filtering is dooring accidents. And just like PC Sinclair said, these dooring accidents are horrible. They often result in facial and head injuries, and it's one of the really difficult cases that we deal with. So here's some footage, and this one has been taken from a client's helmet cam. Filtering, easy, and dooring. That cyclist perfectly entitled to filter. I suppose in some respects, you can normally trust your driver's not going to get out the car, hopefully. Near schools, where there's traffic jams, we often see school kids are just jumping out cars quickly. So maybe try and be aware as aware you can of the circumstances of where you are. Taxis, people are jumping out of taxis, delivery vans, doors. I often look for if there's wing mirrors folded in. I'm pretty confident that that car's locked and empty. So if there's, if you're coming, but and sometimes you can check in the wing mirrors, you can see if there's a driver there. Because you might think, well, if they're there, especially if they've got brake lights on or the lights have just gone on, off, maybe they've just stopped or just. So it's one of the difficult ones. I choose not to filter. I will just sit in traffic. My husband filters all the time. It gives me the fear. So. It's not. Yep. As a on the right hand side as a motor. In that case, they are. Looks like illegal because the undertaking is out of the right side. Yeah, I mean the first. There wouldn't be space for a motorcycle to do that. I suppose cyclists have always traditionally been shoved into the gutters. So like when I did my cycling proficiency as a child, you're always told to ride just as far out. So cyclists have always been shoved into the side of the road. I think there's actually a bus lane there. So that was a bus lane with cars parked. Cyclist is allowed to cycle in the bus lane. So they are allowed to filter there in a situation where perhaps a motorcyclist can, but filtering is legal for motorcyclists. For motorcyclists, we often see very similar types of incidents as well, especially if they're overtaken and a car turns right. And those are very difficult instances as well. It's a situation where cyclists and motorcyclists are putting themselves in danger. And I would just ask you to be careful and make choices about that. As I say, I'm not trying to preach to any of you about this. These are just my decisions, my personal decisions about how I ride a bike as a result of what I see. Yeah. 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 And you've got to get there to get, yeah. It's a difficult one. I can think of one of those near where I live that I want to get to the front to that advanced cycle lane, advanced stop lane, but I can only do that by filtering. Personally, I choose not to. my husband will go up ahead of me. If we're coming back from a bike ride, he'll go up ahead and filter up and sitting there. And I'm like, fine, you can put the lunch on when we get back in. But so we're quite often separated, but that's my lived experience. So having clients come to me with, as I say, very bad days on the bike that I choose not to. Perhaps I have a bit of anxiety. Yeah. Yeah. So if I was very sure that all traffic was stopped and I didn't think that the lights were going to turn quickly and I didn't think it was likely that people were going to get out there, then I might consider it. Everything's a dynamic risk assessment. We're doing this day in, day out as a cyclist. It's non-stop. You're assessing everything all at once. These are just factors I think about. And I hope maybe you'll all give them a bit of thought, because I don't want you to call me. Please don't. Really busy, and it's not good. I mean, I say this, people give what I do as a personal injury solicitor, and it gets a bad rep. So like, oh, ambulance chasers. But these people are my friends and my family. And yeah, it's difficult. Yeah. That's actually the driver. Yeah. Yeah, so the driver's actually responsible to make sure that doors are not opened. So it's the unusual one is when it's taxis and it's drunk people getting. That's why your taxi driver locks you in, also so you don't bump your fare. But so but it's the driver that's responsible for the vehicle. 5 things I'd never do as a personal injury solicitor. Never trust a puddle. Puddles are potholes. Every puddle's a pothole. So puddles, you know, when there's a puddle, that water gathers there. When water gathers there, it goes through the freeze-thaw cycle as we're experiencing tonight. So you know that it could easily be a puddle, a pothole underneath a puddle. And obviously, if it's submerged with water, you can't necessarily see how deep it is. And whilst some potholes are just uncomfortable to go over, some can be like truly dangerous, and you'll often front wheel in, over the handlebars, head injuries, face injuries, and that's exactly what happened here with one of my clients. And this was fully submerged in water when he had his accident. He was actually found unconscious by the people from the local SSPCA. The council in this one actually knew about this pothole, and they'd gone out to see it like every 4 months and take a photograph of it and log it. And they'd actually had in their notes that it would cost about £10. It was not about 10. It would cost £10 to fix this pothole, and they just never did. Despite the fact that there had been a number of reports of cyclists saying there's a dangerous pothole, and there had also been a report from a chap anonymously, but we actually managed to track him down with broken arm on this very pothole. Council did nothing. £10 pothole fix, nothing. So never trust a pothole. If you can safely avoid puddles, try to do so. Obviously, again, dynamic risk assessment with what you can do around you. And if there's traffic, maybe you're deciding the puddle's a better evil. If you can safely avoid puddles, try and do so. Here is a video. So this is a client who's riding in the dark. He's got a really bright light on. You know what's coming, don't you? And that was actually a burst water main the Scottish Water knew about, that had destroyed the road surface, and they hadn't done anything about it. They hadn't even put a cone out or something. Nope. I can do them for compensation, but there isn't such a thing. So compensation is based on reparation, so trying to put you back into the situation that you should have been in. There is nothing like punitive damages or corporate negligence that there is in the States that you might hear of as punishment for what they've done wrong. We've had accidents that have been life-changing with potholes, life-changing. And again, somebody will get money to put them back in, but it's never enough. It's never something you'd want to go through again. The UK, there's compensation, and if you work a case well, you can get good compensation, but it's not a win. There's no winning here. So no, there isn't. No. So again, there's no precisely, yeah, precisely. Yep. So each local authority and roads authority, if it's trunk road, will have their own policy, and they'll have various different categorizations of a defect. So often it's done again as a dynamic risk assessment or as a risk matrix of how likely it is to be and how serious the injury, how serious a consequence could come from it. And that will give a categorization that should lead to response time under their policy. So under their policies, it should set out when they should repair it. So the good thing to do is if you have a familiar pothole that you see in your regular routes, please report it. Even if you know to avoid it, it's the person that doesn't know about it that hits that pothole. If you've reported it, that gives me really good evidence when I'm doing a freedom of information request to say, the council knew about this. They knew about it because this person has chosen, taking 5 minutes out to report it. Most local authorities have got online portals to report, and it's really easy to do so. So if you're aware of it, so no, it depends. Is the honest. It is. Their policy has to be reasonable, and they're all much a muchness. So there's not any massive deviations between them. Otherwise, there would be the potential for criticism that their policy was unreasonable. So local authorities and roads authorities are obligated to do what is reasonable to maintain and inspect their roads. Yep. Oh. Oh, does it? Very good. Yeah, so stuff like that. There's some apps. So there's ones. I have to make sure I get this. I think it's fillthathole.com and not .co.uk, which is a totally different website. I think it's .com or maybe it's .co.uk. Anyway, so there's one called Fill That Hole. Make sure you get the right one. And you can report it on there. And that again, I think that's UK wide as well. So that's probably a safer bet. I should maybe recommend that one. Yeah, yeah. Generally, we'll specifically tell them it's all safety. Yeah, so most of the Cat 1 potholes, depending on the roads authority, but normally it's make immediately safe, and that whether that's stick a cone or something, and then make safe within 24 hours, and then it goes all the way down to like category 4, which is like about round to it. So, and like I say, that pothole that I showed you just before was deemed a category 4, despite the fact it had already taken out 2 cyclists that the council were aware of, and 4 that we managed to dig up. So 5 things I'd never do as a personal injury solicitor. Trust that I have been seen. So this is an accident I dealt with broad daylight. It's up in Bankery in Aberdeenshire. It's an area that I cycle in all the time. It's a straight bit of road. There's 2 cyclists here. Here we go. Broad daylight, there to be seen. We put this up in our socials afterwards. Liability was admitted straight away by the driver. They agreed that they were entirely to blame. We got compensation for our client. He got surgery that he needed. He fractured a clavicle. So all good. But again, we'd rather it didn't happen to start off with. We put this up on our socials afterwards, this video, and you wouldn't believe the amount of criticism that they got for being in black. It's broad daylight. We allow black cars on the road. I choose not to wear black. I think it looks really cool. I think it looks Euro. I choose not to, because of this. I don't choose to wear fluorescents. I'll tend to wear something bright and visible, just to do my best. But again, broad daylight, straight road, there's no reason why they couldn't be seen. There's two of them as well. So okay, if they can't be seen in black, what about full on yellow helmet, flashing light? Broad daylight, okay, it's a bit dim and miserable. I mean, he's pretty visible there. His positioning was, again, you can cycle right round the left-hand side. I'm not always sure that that's the best idea. I tend to cycle like I would drive. Again, that's not advice. It's just that's how I choose to do it, because I think drivers know more what to expect if you're going right in the lane that they expect to go right in. But anyways, he's right in the middle of the roundabout. It's not a large roundabout. He's there to be seen. He could be seen coming onto the roundabout. It's difficult when clients tell me I don't know what else I could have done, and sometimes I just don't know the answer. This is another one. Again, it's darkness, but my client's again full yellow, flashing everything. He's like a Christmas tree. Checking behind him, can see this car coming out to his left. Car's there. She was distracted because her children were shouting in the background. So you can never trust that you've been seen. You can sometimes do everything right. And although drivers are obligated to give way to you, as I said before, the highway code does not give you right of way. It tells you when other people should give you right of way. Yeah, you're not going to win that fight. If you can, do all you can to anticipate that every driver's an idiot. So just anticipate that you've not been seen. Last one, riding without a helmet. Now, this is controversial, and I know Cycling Scotland, Cycling UK have got views on whether you should be wearing a helmet, whether you ought to be wearing a helmet, whether there should be laws on helmet. And I'm a big libertarian. I don't think that the law should be telling adults what to do. I have views about children. I do think children should be wearing helmets. But I think adults, it's your head. You can do what you want with it. So a lot of the arguments is maybe forcing people to wear helmets discourages cycling when it shouldn't inherently be a dangerous sport or activity, and it shouldn't be. But again, if you did my job, you know it's not entirely safe either. And maybe the helmet debate distracts from the real causes of cycling danger, such as poor infrastructure. And maybe the helmet debate puts the burden of safety on the vulnerable road user, and maybe it puts it down to the last fail safe, because everything goes wrong, but he's got a helmet on, it'll be fine. Maybe it increases risk by encouraging people to take risks that they wouldn't otherwise do if they weren't wearing a helmet, or encouraging road users to take risks around cyclists if they're protected by a helmet, maybe. But if you'd seen what I'd seen, and the cases that I deal with, and often it's cyclists that tell me they always wear a helmet, but that's the ones that really get me. And it's this, I had a case for a cybersecurity expert. He always wears a helmet, but he'd taken out the pads to wash them and they were still a bit wet, and he was only going half a mile down the road. It's the young lady doctor. She always wears a helmet, but she'd actually loaned her helmet to her friend that was going mountain biking, and she felt like her friend needed the helmet more. And she was only going to work, and she was only going to be crossing one road, and the rest was off road anyway. It was fine. So it's those circumstances when people that always wear a helmet can be involved in accidents, and it might be accidents that wouldn't have been life-changing if they had been wearing. It might have just been a bad bump. Nasty concussion, it wouldn't necessarily have been life-changing if it hadn't been for an accident. So as I say, nobody expects the worst to happen on their ride, especially if it's somewhere that you feel safe. If you're just nipping to the shops, or if you're going to get a jar of mayonnaise, you don't necessarily think it's extreme mayonnaise fetching that you're going to do. It's when you feel safe is unfortunately, when the worst that can happen, as my husband, who went through the back of a window just a few months ago, half a mile from the house, a girl had reversed out of her driveway right in front of him. So it's my choice. And again, if you'd seen what I'd seen, to wear a helmet every time. This is the gore warning. So if you don't want gore, we've got 5 seconds of gore and then I'll put it away. So just nipping along. So insurers' excuses, this is what we see all the time from the other side. The cyclist came out of nowhere, poof, appears. The cyclist pulled off the pavement in front of me. That we do see that happen. The cyclist was riding too fast. The cyclist was riding too slow. It was low sun and I couldn't see, so I just turned. I just did it. The cyclist went through a red light, so I just hit them. The cyclist wasn't wearing a helmet, so they break their leg. And the cyclist should have braked, so I'll just pull out in front of them. Yep.
Ever represented the pedestrian?
I have.
Who has been knocked
By a cyclist? No.
No, sorry.
Oh.
By being to be.
Yeah.
Has that pedestrian ever been accused of not wearing a helmet?
Yep. You're quite right. The law.
Surely. Realistic penalties. Because motorists been and nobody tells them to wear a helmet.
Yep.
And I have asked and asked at different meetings, how many motor private passengers down through head injury? Because perhaps if they still wearing helmet, they might escape death. These awful, not accident, but collisions.
Yep. Yep. Like I say, everyone comes to me after the bad thing happens. So I get the cases after that awful thing has happened. And although a cycling helmet's not going to prevent an accident happening, it can lessen your injuries when that does happen.
It could, if you're walking down the street or if you get in the car, that's my argument. And all those excuses, they are picture. Certainly, that these aren't accidents. That they are called because.
Is this my time? They're like, just cut her off. So I don't think helmets prevent accidents happening. But I think that the evidence that I see is that certainly they can lessen the injuries. And obviously, if it's a severe traumatic collision, then there's certain incidents that helmets are not going to prevent a head injury. But it's the innocuous ones where it might have otherwise just been a little bump. It's a week out your life, you've got a small concussion. It changes that to being a life-changing injury. And that's the ones I say that I choose always to wear a helmet, and I would choose not to cycle if I didn't have access to a helmet.
To wear a helmet to
I don't, no.
Why not?
Just in the interest now of the one giver with a voice, but just we are slightly cut into a break. It was this.
Yeah.
I want to give you guys a break as well. So in the interest of time, that's what you have all in.
Yep.
I don't know if you want to give everyone a voice, but
we do have some time for questions afterwards as well for the whole panel. So, Kit Kat. No, so I am a civil lawyer only. So I deal with negligence cases pursuing compensation. So I've only ever represented injured people. I only represent cyclists now with the work I do. So for prosecuting cyclists, or sorry. Someone, so it's pretty rare. Like I know that we've heard from PC Sinclair that there are criminal there's offences that cyclists could be guilty of. I'm not actually aware of anyone that's been I mean, to be fair, they might not be the type of people that's come to me, but is it common or? It's not common, yeah, it has happened. But it's not something that I've heard commonly. We have criminal defence solicitors that we can refer people to, but I've never once been asked to do it. So, have you got something you need to? Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Even if I just speak up to get, you know, back when I'm going to, you want to win, I mean, I've got both. I mean, maybe I can use it and go into something for something, something.
Yeah.
So therefore, the same, and it's always, and then know your actual process.
Yeah.
You're doing it. Plus, the whole point was, if they deal with that, and be, I just,
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. A lot of our clients phone us up and say, oh, I don't know whether I'm lucky or unlucky. And it's a bit of both sometimes, I think, because, you know, obviously lucky that they're able to phone me and ask for help. But yeah, unlucky that something bad has happened. Right, I think I'm going to hand back over